Good morning, Art and Answers. I'm so happy you're here today, and we are going to be painting a really cool design. I can only imagine it might look really good in your kitchen. I'm not sure what your kitchen would look like, but it's called Squeeze the Day and the art of ripening gracefully, because here in Art and Answers, we sort out midlife problems through our art. So we're going to be painting this, and citrus is really a wonderful metaphor for midlife because it isn't delicate. It ripens into something vibrant, resilient, and really full of character. And like us, citrus gets better through time. And of course, then it passes on a legacy. So I just thought it was a really good scenario to be painting this. And so I'm going to go through, I did post today that what season are you in? And it kind of has it where it represents, each fruit can represent different things. The lemons are, I'm going to turn around here. The lemons are to make something good from hard things. That's kind of typical, right? Life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. The orange is life feels full and abundant. I'm enjoying its sweetness. The lime is I'm ready for something fresh. I need a little zing and adventure, right? The grapefruit, pink grapefruit, I've grown to appreciate things I once thought were too bitter. And these little small joys, those little cuties, oranges, small joys are enough right now. And what do you want to carry on into the next season with all the little extra leaves? So I went ahead and printed this. Now you can grit it off with tape or a pencil or whatever and try to paint it in. But just to make your life easier, I went ahead and provided this, and you see how it prints with an extra little thing here. So I'm just going to take a pair of scissors and cut that off because I don't want that little edge showing. But if you notice, I did center it so that there's a little edge. It's not lopsided, So, all right. So I'm going to turn you down to my table and show you what all I have here, and then we'll get started, okay? Hey, Kathy. All right, so we're going to go on down here. I think you'll be able to see that way. So I'm going to, if you look at this one, it has an edge here. And I didn't want to paint the entire paper this color because it would show through the white. So, and you can do however you want, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to center this how I want it. And I've already traced this off and cut it. I'm not sure if I'm going to like it that way because I can't be quite as free, I don't think, but all right, so we're gonna have it down here. So I'm just judging that. I'm gonna get my ruler, make sure that it's centered, because we're gonna have to cut off a little part of this so that it doesn't stick out from underneath our citrus. And very lightly, I'm just gonna put it on here so we know where to put it. Really, you don't even have to go all the way across. You can just mark it. But I like to show you this process, not just the painting, so that you have something to go with when you're starting to create your own things. I'm gonna put this back on here. So I want it to be up a little bit more. I think that's good. All right, so now I'm going to kind of mark off where it needs to be cut off, and also kind of where I'm going to place it when I get done. Okay, just made a few marks on there. All right, so I'm just going to cut this. Doesn't have to be perfect, just has to be not there. All right, so when we get done, we're going to paint this edge, and you can decide according to this what what fruits you're actually going to use because of the things that are going on in your life. So you might end up having a different color border because you have predominantly something else. So, but I think I'm still gonna paint this like this. We may make some adjustments. All right, so we're gonna get this out of the way. And like we've done so many times in the past, I put this on the light box and I put this on top, traced it. Then I used my magic eraser here, kneaded eraser, to go along and take up some of the pencil marks so that they don't show through. So we're not going to need that anymore. And we're not going to need this for a little while. And we're just going to dive right in and start with this. I want to get you a little bit further so you can see. All right. I've already spritzed my watercolor, but I'm going to give it a little bit more. I want them to be kind of creamy today. All right. So often we become more flavorful and interesting with age, and we have the depth and, simplicity that simple wasn't possible in our 20s. There's things that you can see and understand now that you just couldn't, there was just no way to understand it when you were younger. All right, I'm going to start with sort of a vibrant green. And a lot of this is going to be wet on dry, although there's a few places we're going to drop in some other colors. But I'm going to get started right here on this rind. Everybody seems to be mowing their grass today. I've got a couple neighbors. So if you hear a mower in the background, that's what it is. All right, so I gave that some rind. I'm still fighting that cough. Now I just put a little bit of yellow in there, and I'm going to do the pulp. Don't forget that you don't have to color in every single spot. Whatever you leave, the little white places that you leave, is a natural highlight. But I added that yellow because I want it to be really vibrant. going to go on to the rind, you know, the peel of this lime, and we're going to add some darker color to it because there's a shadow, and sometimes the outside of citrus, you know, just has that look to it. Okay, so I'm going to pick up a much darker, I don't really want a blue-green. Let's see. I think that one will be good. And we're just going to kind of dab that in there. It's wet, so it will flow a little bit. And we could even put a little bit darker edge right here. So I'm going to skip the citrus on both sides of that lime because I don't want it to run. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to get a little tiny bit of gray because these are daisies and we're painting on white paper. So we're really just going to be painting in the shadows to give it some depth. And I'm basically just going to go on the tips of these petals. And remember, this is a very diluted, watered down gray, but, and it's gonna dry lighter than what's on here right now. So, you know, we were talking about how wonderful it is that as we age, we start to understand things better than we did when we were children. What's the expression? Youth is wasted on the young. So tell me tell me in the comments, what part of life feels sweeter to you now than it did when you were younger? Put some more water in that. It's a little bit too much. Now see, this is starting to dry, but I'm still going to be really careful not to get it in there. I think just understanding, you know, just when I was young, I was always afraid that I was going to miss something like paying ad valorem tax or something. Because I came from a state that we didn't do that. And so I was always afraid there was going to be something that I was going to owe or supposed to be, you know, I like everything. I like to be prepared for everything. So it's nice now with experience, and I've lived in the same place for a long time. So I know pretty much what's due, what's owed, what's, you know, whatever. So I don't worry about things like that anymore. And of course, that also goes with, sometimes people just used to baffle me when I was younger. I could not understand some of the silly things that they did. And I've just kind of taken it on my own to study some psychology, and of course sometimes your religion can give you some insights on things like that. But often when people are rude or they're just insensitive, they're usually hurting. You know, they're usually people that they got something going on, and it's easy to just react to the unkind things they said or did, and sometimes it's just better to not react, let them have their moment. And that definitely only comes with maturity. So what does that lead us? It gives us kind of a thicker skin, right? But we have a more tender inside, which certainly is what's going on in citrus. They have a tough outside but such a sweet reward on the inside. What's your favorite citrus? You know, I grew up in the tropics, so there was a lot of citrus around. There was a lot of melons and stuff like that. And everybody ate everything. You know, there wasn't really... but when I moved to Georgia, there were people, oh, I don't like cantaloupe, or I don't like... Which is fine, but I think it's more, you know, they didn't grow up eating it. And they were accustomed to eating things that I wasn't accustomed to, so I get it. I get it. I'm gonna let that dry just a little. And I think the heavier, the thicker peels and rinds that they have kind of gives us a healthy boundary. You know, if we want to think about ourselves having a rind, you're just less concerned with pleasing everyone, and while still keeping a tender heart, because you know that that's important. All right, so we're going to go back to our green, because we're going to make this one a lime as well. So this is the green with the yellow in it. And this one, when I drew this one, it's really got a thick inside. It's like almost like it didn't finish getting ready. But I liked it. I like the white on it. I like how it kind of defines the fruit itself. Can you think of anything that you have done in your life that you learned how to protect yourself without hardening your heart? I'm going to turn this around. I know with me sometimes I think to myself, it's not about, you know, avoiding you is not about trying to hurt you. And I'm not talking about you, I'm just talking about people in general. When you think to yourself, this person I'm not aligned with, and they don't have any place in my life. And so you make those kinds of decisions, and I know that I've had a few people be like, well, why are you avoiding me? Or why don't we hang out anymore? And I think to myself, well, because avoiding you is not to hurt you. Avoiding you is to protect me. And that's kind of a hard pill to swallow for some people. But if they're causing you that much damage, that much pain in your life, then it's just the way it's got to be. So I say that that's maturity. And every fruit is different. No fruit has the same, you know, they're not perfectly round, and sometimes they're lumpy or scarred, but they're all delicious. And that certainly relates to us as well. Through the years, we accumulate you know, things about us. I'm just going to daintily get in here with some orange. I'm going to put some brown in there a little later. This is going to be the centers. You know, I designed this with daisies. I'm not sure why I didn't design them with the actual flowers that belong to these fruits, but it didn't occur to me till just now. I like daisies, though. I think we'll just go with that. So, you know, being creative women gives us an extra little layer too. It makes us all really different and really interesting. All right, I'm just mixing up kind of a darker, a little bit darker green. I think I'm gonna put some olive in there because I want it to be really different from that lime. Yeah, that's better. And of course, when we get the ink in there, it's gonna really define it, so it's a little much for that one. All right, get a little more olive. And where's there another leaf? There's another leaf over here. And I did add some other leaves that aren't in your tracer. So feel free to put your leaves wherever you want. And, you know, in our little Rosetta Stone here, leaves are what you want to carry into the next season. So you might actually make a list of things that you want to pursue. Maybe you want to learn something new. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do. So maybe you can add an extra leaf for each one of those things. This is your art. You do with it what you want. You can make it mean something, or it can just be totally mindless, which sometimes is a lot of fun in itself. So, you know, one of the most flavorful parts of the fruit, of citrus especially, is the zest on the rind. And being from where I'm from, tell me do you eat the rind? Unless, you know, if it's not just requested in a recipe. Because where I'm from, we eat the rind too. And there's a lot of nutrition in there. A lot of people throw it away, and that's fine. But sometimes our greatest gifts are the very experiences that we overlook. You know, caring for parents and children, sometimes grief, sometimes starting over, accepting your failures. You know, when you have really quiet seasons. I'm going to put a little bit of this magenta in my orange for the grapefruit. All right, and I'm going to put that rosier color on the inside. And I'm going to avoid that little seed there and leave it white. But if you can't, it's fine. You can go back in with your, you know, your Signo Uniball, or even some white paint. I've kind of fallen in love with this Miss Dr. Martin's Bleed Proof White. You have to kind of mix. It's really thick, so you have to mix it with a little bit of water, but it does a really good job getting you a nice white mark on your painting. Whereas a lot of other paints or inks or whatever, the color underneath it will bleed through, and it won't be as pure white. Excuse me. So how else can we relate ourselves to citrus for our squeezing the day? Sometimes we can add zest to everything that we do, everything that we make. And it's so much more, sometimes so much more interesting than what we would have done when we were younger. It has a richness about it, just like fruit when it matures. And the sour part, you know, a lot of times when you pick citrus and it's not ready, it's pretty sour. It hasn't had a chance to convert all that energy into sweetness, into sugar, because it's still growing. And we're certainly like that, aren't we? Sometimes we don't understand things and we can become a little bitter about the whole situation. But as we get older, we start to understand where someone else was coming from or why. I'd love to be able to tell you that by the end of your life, all the mysteries of life will be revealed to you, but I don't think that's going to happen. All right. I'm going to add a much lighter color orange to this nice rosy color we have, and I'm going to use that for the skin. I feel like I have to concentrate on this a little bit. We're getting close here. I think as we get older too, we learn to turn disappointments into, you know, wisdom and compassion, maybe humor. You ladies in Art and Answers are learning to turn your feelings into art. I'm so proud of you for that. You're doing such a great job. I'm just going around these petals just because I want to define them a little bit. There we go. And there's an awful lot of puddling right here of this paint. I'm just going to take a dry brush, I'm going to dab it off on the paper towel, and I'm going to kind of suck some of that up. And I don't mind that it's kind of it looks kind of mottled because that's the way that skin's going to look anyway. That looks better. And then we'll come back and do the outside rind. Pardon me. A little bit later. Let me get a drink. So tell me in the comments, what lemons have you been dealt in your life that you turned into lemonade? I know that with myself, I'm gonna have to clean all this green off of this yellow. Hold on a second. But with myself, my nature is just, I'm just naturally a little bit naive. I want to believe everybody all the time. Kind of hurts my feelings when I find out I've been deceived. But as I've gotten older, I've started to understand that people are going to be that way. That is too yellow. Let me put a little ochre in there. Oh, that's much more lemony there. But my nature really attracts my energy, I guess it is, really attracts people that need energy. And sometimes I get frustrated. It's like they're just kind of energy suckers, you know? And I've learned through the years, I can just about spot people like that now. I don't have to get into a deep relationship with them to find out that, you know, maybe their intentions aren't as honorable. And I will say, this is definitely the messy middle, isn't it? I mean, it's not looking very pretty. But we're doing the best we can here. Once we start to get the ink on there and we get the background done, it's gonna come all together and be awesome. Have you ever noticed that if you get a bunch of citrus and just put it in a bowl in your kitchen, it instantly just brightens up the room, doesn't it? It's like, it's not just the colors, it's the energy in the fruit that just, you can smell it, you can see it, you can almost just feel it. And as creative women, I want you to compare yourself to that bowl of fruit, because we brighten every room we enter. Because we bring beauty and encouragement and imagination to a place. And I don't want you to sell yourself short. You've got it. You've got the magic. And people feel it. And they want it. It's up to you to decide if you're going to give it. And of course, as these things grow, I'm going to drop in a little more ochre into this wet paint so that we have that same stippling like we have down here. But, you know, as we grow, the seeds of life, whether you raised your own children or not, you had something to do with raising a generation. And there's nothing more admirable than that. All right, just put a little bit more ochre right there in that in that grapefruit. So the seeds mean future growth, and every piece of fruit carries seeds to another season. We're still planting seeds, whether they're ideas or stories, talents, and it leaves a richness and creativity that you can't buy. No one can teach you that. You have to live it. All right, I'm going to set this to the side. I still have to do the edge of the grapefruit, but most everything is done except for ink. And so we're going to go over here to our background. I'm going to put this over here so I don't smudge it. And I'm going to go around and paint the edge here. And I think I'll just do it wet on wet. And I'm going to turn that and let that paint flow. I do this a lot. I pick up my paper and try to let the paint flow. Not only because it gives you a nice gradient, but it just makes it mixy and pretty. Now I got a little bit more reddish orange on this side. It doesn't hurt my feelings. It's fine. I'm gonna leave it just like that. And these marks where I marked where the citrus is going, I'm gonna add a little more orange to that. I'm just gonna make it a little bit deeper, so. All right, and once your watercolor starts to get to a certain kind of dryness, you can see it, like it's really shiny over here and down here. So I could probably move that a little bit, but it's starting to dry up here. I would never want to, I don't want to touch that because it'll make a brush mark. So it's better to just let it do its thing. All right. This appears to be dry, so we're just going to kind of move this out of the way and do our grapefruit. I'm just popping in. I see Debbie and Tony and Cheryl. My goodness. How wonderful. Great to see you guys. All right. So we're going to do the edge of this rind here. I'm going to put a little more magenta in this orange. So, you know, midlife has a way of squeezing us, squeezing us through caregiving and sometimes loss, career changes, health challenges, maybe even empty nest. And it's okay. Once we get mature and we understand that's just part of it, then you can sit back and enjoy the process. I went ahead and cut this out early. I've never done that before. I usually paint it and then cut it. But I thought I would spare you the boredom of watching me cut it out because it was kind of, it's kind of detailed. You just need to take your time, be patient. But I'm noticing I'm just not quite as, I don't feel as free. Like I feel like I need to stay in the lines, you know? Whereas if it's just a piece of paper, then I can do what I need and I know that I can rein it in with the ink, with the pen. So I don't know if this is going to be the flow in the future or not, but I didn't want you to have to watch me do all that. So, you know, we get squeezed from all those difficulties in our life, but yet often comes out of it is resilience and grace. A lot of times faith, a deeper understanding of your faith, humor, generosity, certainly your creativity. So those are definitely things to be thankful for. Now, I'm going to hit this with the heat tool so that I can go ahead and put this together. So close your ears. show you. You see this up here? You see that? That's called a bloom. And apparently what I did was when I dipped this in the water, I probably dropped a drop in there. And so sometimes you can use that to your advantage, but this doesn't hurt my feelings. I'm going to leave it just like that. And it got a little bit wet down here. But I know that my fruit's going to cover a lot of that up. So we're going to put this. What I do is I have one of these, I call it my official heavy book. It's really a U-line book. But I love it because I can put my glue all the way to the edge without getting it all over my desk. And then I just close it up and so what if 2 pages glue together. And then I use it for weight, you know, push those glued things on. All right, I'll gently put this on here now. Get it where it's all lined up. I'll move that over just a little. There you go. And then I put this right back on top of there. And we can work on our ink. You want to see the finished product again? I don't think I want to work on top of this book. So now this is my Stedler waterproof. I have these little tags on there so I know that that's a waterproof one. And I like the 08 size. And we're just going to kind of go making some water. And we're just going to kind of gently outline. It doesn't have to be, sometimes I actually make my hand wiggle a little bit. I'm going to put some dots because I like dots. And just think of this process as a way to add some shadows. And this one is a half. So, make sure you're able to see. I will come back and address your comments. When we get done. You know, some people are so good at multitasking, and I'm just not. And it's okay, I don't mind admitting that. When you outline these things, you don't have to do it all the way everywhere. I'm going to put some dots on there. Like, you can stagger it a little bit. So on these flowers, I'm going to put a little bit more scribble there on the inside, more dots. And as we do the petals, I'm going to bring it like where the petal is folded and kind of closer to the center. A lot of times they have a little bit more shadow. And this just gives it a lot more depth. So you have the reference, And you can work on those. You don't have to watch me do all this boring, but you've got the idea with that. And look at the difference between citrus and flower. Then from over here, looks kind of boring. So I will finish that a little bit later. This has glued down, and my little places where I marked that I was going to place this, I will glue this down. And if you notice, I also put a little bit of shadow once I glued it down. And this is just that very light gray that I used over here. And I also went around the edge. You don't have to do that, but I just thought I kind of finished it off a little bit. So I'm going to bring you back up here. Oh, there's a lot of comments. There we go. So the next time you see a full bowl of fruit, you know, rejoice in how much progress you've made. Not just in your creativity, just in your life. So pray more and worry less. Bless you. I'll see you later. Thanks. Bye.